There are 5 things the ancient Stoics understood about life that most people don't figure out until it's almost too late, until the divorce, the diagnosis, the deathbed, and by then understanding them doesn't help nearly as much as it would have 10 years earlier. You're about to hear all 5 right now, while you still have time to use them. Seneca opens his essay on the shortness of life with the most uncomfortable truth in all of philosophy. Life isn't short, you're just wasting most of it. He wrote that people guard their money carefully but hand their time to anyone who asks for it. And if you doubt that, look at your screen time report from last week. Look at how many hours went to scrolling, refreshing, watching things you've already forgotten. Not because you chose to, because you defaulted to it. Because the path of least resistance led you there and you followed it without thinking. Here's what makes this lesson one people learn too late. Time doesn't announce that it's running out. It just runs. There's no warning light, no alarm. One day you look up and realize 10 years have passed and you spent most of them on autopilot. Seneca saw this pattern in Rome 2,000 years ago. People who were always busy, always occupied, and never truly alive. The lesson isn't that you should feel guilty about rest or entertainment. It's that you should choose them deliberately instead of drifting into them unconsciously. The difference between an hour of chosen rest and an hour of mindless scrolling is the difference between living and just existing. And most people don't see that difference until the time is already spent. Epictetus taught that your reputation is not within your control. What people think of you, say about you, and believe about you lives entirely outside the boundary of what is up to you. And yet, most people organize their entire lives around managing perceptions. They take jobs to impress people they don't even like. They post online to earn approval from strangers they'll never meet. They bite their tongue, abandon their principles, and reshape their personality to fit whatever room they happen to be in. Marcus Aurelius saw this in the imperial court. He was surrounded by senators who performed their identities instead of living them. And he wrote in the Meditations, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Read that again. You value your own life more than anyone else's, and yet you let other people's opinions dictate how you live it. The contradiction is absurd. And it's one most people don't recognize until they've spent decades living for an audience that was never really paying attention. The Stoic correction is not to become indifferent to people. It's to distinguish between what you can control and what you can't. You can control whether you act with integrity. You cannot control whether anyone notices. Do the first, release the second, and stop auditioning for a role you were never required to play. Seneca deliberately practiced poverty once a month. Simple food, rough clothing, hard bed, not because he lacked options, because he wanted to prove to himself that he didn't need comfort to survive. Most people arrange their lives to minimize discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They choose the familiar over the challenging. They stay in situations they've outgrown because leaving would be uncomfortable. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. The Stoics saw it differently. It's the only environment in which character actually develops. You don't build strength by avoiding weight. You build it by carrying it. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most. Not the easy seasons, the hard ones, the job you almost couldn't handle, the relationship that forced you to confront your worst patterns, the failure that stripped away your excuses and showed you what you were actually made of. Every one of those moments was uncomfortable. And every one of them made you someone you couldn't have become any other way. Seneca understood that the person who fears losing their comfort is already imprisoned by it. The person who can live without it is free in a way that wealth and success can never provide. This is the lesson people resist most, and the one that costs them the most when they learn it too late. Epictetus taught his students a practice that sounds brutal at first. When you kiss your child goodnight, he said, whisper to yourself, "Tomorrow you may die, not to be morbid, but to be present." To remind yourself that this moment, this person, this embrace is not guaranteed to happen again. Marcus Aurelius practiced the same thing. He watched friends die. He buried children. And through all of it, he wrote about the importance of loving fully while knowing that everything you love is on loan. Most people do the opposite. They protect themselves from loss by holding back. They keep one foot out the door in relationships. They avoid getting too close because closeness means vulnerability, and vulnerability means the possibility of pain. And so they go through life surrounded by people they never fully let in, guarding themselves against a grief that finds them anyway. The Stoic lesson is not to love less. It's to love completely with full awareness that nothing lasts. Because the alternative, loving cautiously to avoid pain, doesn't actually prevent pain. It just guarantees that when the loss comes, and it always comes, you'll also carry the regret of never having been fully present for what you had. Epictetus wasn't telling you to prepare for tragedy. He was telling you to stop wasting the time before it arrives. Marcus Aurelius writes in Book 12, "Confine yourself to the present." Seneca writes in Letter 1, "While we postpone, life speeds by." Epictetus tells his students, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" 3 philosophers, 3 centuries, the same message. Stop postponing your life. Most people live in a state of permanent deferral. I'll start when the timing is right. I'll pursue what I care about when I have more money. I'll be present with my family when work calms down. I'll take care of myself after the deadline. The Stoics would ask, what if the deadline is your last? This isn't about urgency for its own sake. It's about recognizing a pattern that destroys more lives than any crisis ever could. The pattern of always preparing to live without ever actually living. Of treating the present as a waiting room for a future that may never arrive. Every Stoic philosopher arrived at this same conclusion independently. The present moment is all you own. The past is a memory. The future is a guess. And the space between those two things, the narrow strip of time called now, is the only place where your life actually happens. Stop waiting. Not tomorrow, now. Here's your challenge. Rank these 5 lessons in your mind right now, from "I already know this" to "I needed to hear this." Don't think about which one sounds the most impressive. Think about which one made you uncomfortable, which one you wanted to skip past, which one your mind immediately started arguing with. That one, that's your lesson. That's the one you're learning too late. And the fact that you recognized it means you're not too late yet. Pick it. Write it down, put it where you'll see it every morning this week, and let it work on you the way it's been working on people for 2,000 years. The Stoics didn't figure these lessons out in classrooms. They figured them out in exile, in war, in slavery, and in the quiet hours before death. They paid for this wisdom with their lives. You can have it for free. The only cost is being honest enough to apply it before you need it. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? If this changed how you think about what matters, subscribe for more ancient wisdom that still works today. Drop a comment telling me which lesson you needed to hear most. I read every single one.